Right now, somewhere in your kitchen, there is a refrigerator humming quietly. You open it without thinking. Food, anytime you want it. But your body doesn't know that. Your body still thinks winter might kill it. For most of human history, winter wasn't a season. It was a test. And the way your ancestors passed that test is stranger and far more brutal than anything on a modern diet plan. You've probably heard the story. Cavemen ate meat, big steaks around a fire, maybe a berry or two. Simple. Except that story is mostly wrong. And the real answer explains something about your own body that you've never questioned. Start with fat, not muscle meat. Fat. When early humans killed a large animal in autumn, they didn't go for the lean cuts first. They went for the organs, the brain, the marrow packed inside the bones. Why? Because lean protein alone can actually poison you if it's the only thing you eat. Nutritional researchers call this rabbit starvation, a real and documented condition. Your liver can only process so much protein before ammonia builds up faster than your body can clear it. Without fat or carbohydrates to balance it, too much lean meat becomes dangerous. So your ancestors weren't hunting for meat, they were hunting for fat. That's why marrow bones were treasure. Cracked open with a stone, sucked clean, saved for last. Fat meant survival. Fat meant calories dense enough to get a body through a season with no fresh food at all. Anthropologist Catherine Milton spent years studying the diets of primates and early human groups, and her research points to something surprising. Human digestive systems are strangely small for our body size, especially compared to other great apes. That's not an accident. It means humans evolved to eat calorie-dense food, not to graze all day on low-quality plants. Fat and marrow fit that need perfectly. Leaves and roots did not. So winter meant one thing above all else: find the fat before it runs out. But fat alone couldn't carry a group through months of frozen ground. There's a deeper strategy here, one your body still remembers, even if your mind doesn't. Preservation. Long before refrigerators, before salt was common, humans were already engineering ways to stop food from rotting. Freezing was the easiest trick nature offered. In colder climates, hunters would cache meat directly in snowbanks, in cold streams, in shaded rock crevices, essentially building the world's first freezers out of the landscape itself. Meat frozen this way could last for months, slowly rationed out as the season dragged on. In warmer or drier regions, humans discovered a different trick: drying meat into what we'd now call jerky. Thin strips, hung, and exposed to wind and sun, lose most of their moisture. Without moisture, bacteria can't grow. A piece of meat that would rot in 3 days could last for months once dried. Archaeological evidence of these practices stretches back tens of thousands of years, long before agriculture, long before pottery, long before anything you'd recognize as a kitchen. And there's something else your ancestors relied on that modern nutrition culture has almost forgotten: fermentation. In parts of the Arctic, groups like the ancestors of today's Inuit and other far northern peoples developed a practice where fish and meat were deliberately left to ferment underground or in sealed containers made of skin. It sounds unpleasant. It wasn't accidental. Controlled fermentation breaks food down in ways that preserve nutrients, especially vitamin C, which is otherwise almost impossible to get in an environment with no fruit for half the year. Without this, entire populations in the far north would have faced scurvy every single winter. Instead, they engineered a solution using nothing but time, cold, and bacteria they couldn't even see. Here's the part that should surprise you. Winter survival wasn't really about meat at all. It was about chemistry. Ancient humans were running biological experiments with every frozen cache and every strip of dried meat, long before anyone had a word for microbiology. Now for the twist. You'd assume plants disappeared entirely in winter. They mostly did, on the surface. But underground was a different story. Roots, tubers, and bulbs don't die in winter. They wait. Digging sticks, some of the oldest tools ever found, were used specifically to reach these underground food stores when nothing edible remained above the frost line. Primatologist and researcher Richard Wrangham has argued that access to cooked starches like these, not just meat, may have played a major role in fueling the energy-hungry human brain over evolutionary time. Cooking broke down tough plant fibers and unlocked calories that raw digestion simply couldn't reach. A tuber pulled from frozen ground and roasted over a fire wasn't a side dish. It might have been one of the reasons your brain is the size it is today. This is where things get uncomfortable if you think about it long enough. Every calorie your ancestors ate in winter had to be found, dug, hunted, or fermented through effort and risk. There was no guarantee. Some winters, there wasn't enough. Skeletal remains from certain prehistoric populations show clear evidence of seasonal malnutrition, growth interruptions in bones that map almost exactly to winter months, year after year. Your ancestors weren't always fed. Sometimes they were just barely surviving until spring. And that brings us to your body, right now, sitting wherever you're sitting. Researcher Hermann Ponzer, who studies human energy expenditure across different populations, has shown that despite radically different diets and lifestyles, human metabolisms are remarkably consistent, shaped by millions of years of feast and famine cycles. Your body still stores fat aggressively when it can, still craves dense, calorie-rich food, still responds to scarcity signals your brain evolved to take seriously. That craving for fatty, salty, energy-dense food when you're stressed or tired, that's not weakness. That's an ancient survival algorithm still quietly running in the background, waiting for a winter that, for most of you, will never come. Think about that the next time you reach for something rich and fatty on a cold night. You're not being lazy. You're a hunter-gatherer standing in front of a refrigerator that never runs out. Your ancestors didn't survive winter by eating whatever was easiest. They survived through fat-seeking instinct, through preservation techniques invented with nothing but frozen ground and patience. Through fermentation science they never wrote down but somehow perfected. And through digging into the earth itself when the surface offered nothing. Every one of those systems still lives inside you, encoded not as memory, but as craving. So the next time winter comes and you open that refrigerator without a second thought, remember this. That instinct pulling you towards something warm, something rich, something dense with calories, it's older than agriculture, older than fire, older than language itself. It's not hunger. It's a season your body has never fully stopped fearing.